always wanted to kind of increase your reading. We're going to start with things that you may watch, either TV shows or movies that have hold a special place in your heart, and then suggest different books, comics, and manga that, based on the movies that you like, you might like this reading material. So we are, all of us, part of a group called the Color Fandom. So we are a local social organization for geeks here in the Triangle area. So we are welcome to all, but we primarily exist as a place where people who have marginalized identities can freely and openly express how those identities intersect with their fandoms, and how their identities inform their fandoms, and how their fandoms inform their identities. As we mentioned, we are welcome to all, but we exist for a safe space for all of us to have those kinds of conversations centered around fandom. So I'm going to start with our panelists introducing themselves. We're going to start on the end with Early.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Early. I am one of the early members of Color Fandom. The group has been going on for 10 years now. And yeah, I can't wait for you to watch our stuff. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Wynn, and I'm a librarian here at the Durham County Library System. I actually work at the one that's just a couple of blocks away. I've been running the library's graphic book club for the past 10 years. We're still meeting. I've got flyers if you want to grab one after the panel. And for those of you who aren't from around here, we still meet on Zoom, so you don't have to live in Durham. It's a really good group, and I'm really looking forward to sharing some books with you.
Hello, I'm Harrison Stewart. I worked at Ultimate Comics, so you may recognize me from there. I write and draw comic books, and that's me.
So my name is Robin. I am one of the administrators of Color Fandom. I am also a huge fan of the library. Aside from working in one, I've been going to the library my entire life. That's actually where I met Wynn, and we've been friends ever since. But let's go ahead and get started. So Early has our first recommendation, so we'll let her go ahead and get started.
Okay, hello, and hear me out here. So Wrinkle in Time, I don't know if you guys read that. It's basically a daughter going on a quest to basically find her parent. She meets people along the way to help her on that journey. Some of it's painful, but that's kind of where I kind of connected to that. And so I don't know if anybody's watched Soul Leveling. Who's watched Soul Leveling or knows Soul Leveling? All right. So there is a sequel to Soul Leveling that deals with the child of one of the main characters. The child is Sun Ho. This is a Korean webtoon. They call them manhwas instead of mangas. The main character for Soul Leveling was Sung Jung Woo. This is the telling of his son, because Sung Jung Woo goes missing, and now his son has to deal with some of the same issues that his dad dealt with on his quest to find out where his parents are. I'm not going to tell you who his mom is, but I'm sure you already know who it is. But he's on a quest to find them where they are because they've been missing from his life. And so he goes through the same system that his father went through to level up, so leveling, to get to as powerful enough so where he can find his parents. So I was just like, oh, that seems similar. We got two kids trying to find their family, trying to connect to the people that they miss and love. So yeah, that's how I connect to those.
And this was one.
Okay, so if you are unfamiliar with Steven Universe, it is a children or teen cartoon that does a remarkable job of playing with and subverting the traditional tropes of the magical girl genre. And it's a lot of fun. It has mystery, relationships, tiny little bits of really cute romance, and a lot of very fun cartoony action and queer stuff. Sleepless Domain you can get to because it's a webcomic. You don't have to go to the library, you don't have to go and buy anything, although you should absolutely support the creator. And it also does a great job of playing with and subverting a lot of magical girl tropes. Although in this case, they are actually magical girls. In fact, magical girls are an integrated part of the society in Sleepless Domain, because every night when night falls, things go wrong in the city and horrible monsters come out. And so there's basically this entire organized, publicly funded, in part, organization of different little cliques of magical girls who defend the city at night. And this follows one of the characters on the, that you can see spread out there. Actually, not the one in the center, the one to the right with the blue hair. And kind of like how Steven Universe has a whole lot of mysteries about what happened before the first episode, Sleepless Domain is exactly the same way. There's a lot of curious things that don't quite line up about the setting and about the way everything fits together. And as those cracks get explored and within the story, exploited, things get really weird and strange. And it's really good. I got hooked on it a lot. It's really fun.
Okay, so I assume that most everybody in here has probably seen The Dark Knight. Pretty good movie. This could definitely apply to, I watched it like last week. This could definitely apply to The Batman as well. The Long Halloween, The Dark Knight owes a huge debt to. Everything that is involved with the Two-Face storyline, anything that has to do with kind of the mystery, the deal with the devil that Batman, Gordon, and Two-Face make, all of that comes from The Long Halloween. The basic premise is that it takes place, I believe, in the 3rd year of his activity. So it's early on in Batman's career. Harvey Dent is still the district attorney. He wants to clean things up. And he has a big problem now because there's somebody on the loose called Holiday. We don't know who it is, but he kills a lot of people every holiday. So it takes place over the course of a year as they're trying to unravel it, but it's also, Batman's in the title, it's a Two-Face story. If you are interested in Two-Face as a complex villain, as somebody who desperately wants to do right and takes it too far almost every time, and just watching as he unravels, it is an excellent story. I put it in anyone's hands that is interested in the Batman movies and wants like kind of an introduction to the comics, because it's self-contained. It has a beginning, middle, end. You don't have to read anything after it. I would suggest reading the sequel, Dark Victory, because it's also really good. It's Jeff Loeb, who also did Hush. He did Superman for All Seasons. They collaborate a lot. Super, super talented team. Cannot recommend this book highly enough.
Yeah, no question. It's one of my favorite Batman stories.
Yeah. That's what the Batman 2 is going to be adapted.
Okay.
As a film.
So my first one is for Watch This. It's Monarch Legacy of Gonsters. So if you're into Godzilla, this show follows 2 scientists who come across each other. And the show itself bounces back and forth between the 50s and the kind of like mid-2010s. It's like around 2015 or so. But these 2 scientists discover the monsters, and they end up creating this society, this government agency called Monarch that is in place, and their intent is for them to study monsters, but it doesn't always go that way, and hence a lot of the adventure. So it bounces back and forth in time. It starts with the 2 scientists discovering kaiju, and in the relatively present day, Monarch has kind of become this clandestine organization. So one of the scientists' grandkids, well, without too many spoilers, one of the scientists' grandkids, both of the scientists' grandkids, end up tied in with this organization and trying to kind of trace backwards and figure out what this organization is doing and how they are personally involved with the organization. So if you enjoy that show, or just kaiju stuff in general, I highly recommend Kaiju Preservation Society. It's super fun, so it's also just one of those things that The writer, John Scalzi, calls it, I think he calls it like a pop song of a book. So it follows this guy. It starts during COVID, and so he's having like trouble finding work. He gets laid off from his job, and he ends up taking a job with the Kaiju Preservation Society. So his job basically is he's like a support technician for the scientists who are actually studying kaiju. And of course he's over there and crap happens. And so then he ends up roped up trying to stop this plot that of people who have nefarious intentions towards the kaiju. But it's really just a ton of fun, and I had a great time going through this book.
Also read Kaiju number 8, the manga. Oh, this is me? Okay, sorry. The next one is Harry Potter. The reason why I chose these, first, Legendborn, that's one of our own. Tracy Dion is actually a member of Color of Fandom. She is one of the founding members, actually. And also Amari and the Knight Brothers. Now, if you're just looking for a magical society and you don't want to give any money to J.K. Rowling anymore, for whatever reasons you choose to, I think that Amari and the Knight Brothers is a really great story. It's definitely a child just dropped in the magical world that they know nothing about. It's based, she goes to a school, she learns that her brother is a very big time wizard. He got rid of big time villains, and now she's got to live up to that legacy of her brother, but she had no clue because she thought he was just going to work. So when she finds out, she's like, what? My nerdy brother? Can't be. She's got to deal with not only trying to find her missing brother because now he's missing, but also kind of deal with the legacy of her brother and the expectations that have been put on her, because she ends up being, just like Harry, quite powerful. So yeah. And then Legendborn, of course, our Tracy, she based it here in North Carolina. We already know the main character. She's also dropped into a magical society that she knows nothing about. And she has to deal with not only trying to find her own parent, but she's got to deal, not her own parent, dealing with the death of her parent. There's a lot of death in both these. Oh, it looks, sorry. But just not only that, but being a teenage girl and just dealing with all the ramifications of everything that happens in that universe. So yeah, if you like that type of series, I think those two books would really work well with you, and both characters happen to be Black girls.
Robin, would it be okay, because I remembered the book that I forgot that I wanted to put on the slide?
On this one or the previous one?
On the previous one.
Yeah, of course.
So this is not on the slide, but Skullomance by Naomi Novik is a magical school story that addresses issues of institutionalized power, inherited dynastic privilege and resources, and God, it's so good. It's people who do magic when they're young and first coming into their power are at huge risk because there are monsters that eat magic and that will eat little baby wizards. So the powerful magical families created basically like an interdimensional space station that is the magical school that the fortunate children get sucked into on a bungee cord as they are coming into their power. Like it's just sloop, you get sucked into it. And that worked really well for them for a couple of years until the system started breaking down and it started attracting all of the monsters. And the adults stopped being able to go back to fix things. But it's still sucking children in because it's still technically safer than being on Earth. And then they're like, well, we'll open it up to more people because then the monsters will eat those poor unprepared folks and not our kids. And it's a trilogy and they're marvelous. And the main character is such a little nightmare. She's this biracial, like I think mom is Welsh and dad is from somewhere in India. and she is, the universe is setting her up to be a dark sorceress queen. It's giving, she has all of this incredible power. All of the magic that she's learning most easily are like, control and dominate the minds of everyone around you, or summon a nuclear volcano. And she doesn't, she has no time for that. She doesn't want to do any of that. None of it. She is the most stubborn, bull-headed young woman ever. And anyway, they're marvelous. You should read them. Way better than...
Is Deadly Graduation is the first one?
That's,
Okay, yeah.
Deadly Education is the first
Education,
book. And it's the series is installments. Sorry. Thank you. Okay, so now my actual slide. I get to talk more. All right, so book, it's WandaVision, and then a book that is about just the vision. So if you've seen WandaVision, you know it's about complicated and weird media presentations of family and normality. It's about Wanda doing horrible things to indulge herself in her fantasies. Yeah, it's a mess. The Vision is that Tom King? I can never remember the man's name. Okay, yeah. It's the same thing, but Wanda's not there. And it's the Vision making his own family out of himself. And these new people who he makes are like purpose-built for the roles of a family. So he makes a Vision that is his wife. He makes a Vision that is his daughter. He makes a Vision that is his son. But they're people. They're kind of him being put into this role. And that goes about as well as you might imagine any person who gets put into a role by someone else would go. It's good. It's all about humanity and what makes us people and how we relate to each other and how we relate to society. It's good stuff. And we have that one at the library. Yeah, it's kind of my job.
All right, I'm excited for this one. Dune. Did we all see and love Dune? If you didn't love Dune, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah.
I don't like Dune. It's
All
fine. Go ahead.
right. Maybe you'll like the end cow.
Oh, I do like the end cap.
There it is. So, there is a great documentary called Jodorowsky's Dune. Okay, in the late 70s, they were attempting to make a Dune movie. They approached Alejandro Jodorowsky, who is just this, he's an insane man. And I mean that in the best possible way. He just arrives at things that no one else could possibly do. He cobbled together an incredible cast. Like Mick Jagger was gonna be in it. Yeah. Dali also agreed to be like the emperor. It was just insane. Money got involved. Things fell apart. So sad, we never got it. Except, yeah, we kind of did. The Incal is what he would have done with the Dune franchise. So if you are into the idea of an unwilling prophet, of somebody that receives extraordinary power, and that not really being a great thing for other people, the Incal is just so special. It is also self-contained. There are other books within the universe, but the story mostly wraps by the end of it. Mobius, who is just unbelievable artist. You will be hard-pressed to find another artist that devotes the level of detail to rendering this world. It's visionary. It is in the spirit of Dune. I kind of like what it has to say a bit better than Dune, because Dune tends to be like, yeah, but is a messianic figure that bad? I don't know. This has a pretty hard stance. It is excellent. I think you should check it out.
Okay, my next one is watching, if you like the movie Interstellar, which I did. Early says I have a thing for Christopher Nolan movies, which I probably do. So as you know, in this one, there is a small group of astronauts who is going off. They leave Earth as very derelict. They've gone off to try to figure out whether or not one of these few planets that they are aware of, from reports that they've gotten back from other scientists, are going to be viable as a second home for humanity. So there's a lot of exploring deep space in the movie. The visual effects are amazing. So To Be Taught If Fortunate, of course, it's a book, so the visual effects are all in your mind. But it is still amazing in the way that the worlds are described. So you, again, have a small team of astronauts. So at the time, they have left a relatively prosperous Earth, but they are exploring deep space. So they have certain planets that they are going to visit. And it's, for me, one of the things that I really loved about Interstellar was just the exploration of deep space and these concepts of what that looks like. And so we get a taste of that in To Be Taught If Fortunate. And so that's one of the reasons that I really like this book. And in both, one of the hiccups in both, they end up having to make a critical decision. So To Be Taught If Fortunate, they stop receiving messages from Earth. And in Interstellar, because of some things that happen, they only have enough fuel they have to make a decision, one or the other, and they don't know what they should do. So in To Be Taught If Fortunate, they stop receiving messages from Earth and they don't know why. So when they left Earth, it was fine. They have to make a decision. Do they go back home, or do they move forward to the next planet where they know that they can survive, but they have other things that are weighing on that, similarly to in Interstellar, where the team has to figure out, what is the best, not only for themselves, but also for the people that they've left behind on Earth. All right, back to Early.
Hello again. So I don't know if anyone's seen King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. It is by Guy Ritchie. I'm gonna tell you something. When I watched this in the theater with Robin and another friend of ours, we kind of lost our minds because it was just so entertaining for us. Think of what Guy Ritchie does, and then put that in an Arthurian legend, and it goes just as well, just as about as you think it is. It is high paced, just banter, the whole thing, and we ate it up. And so when I was thinking about that, the next thing that came to my mind were these two. It's by Steve McHugh. The first one is Harlequin Chronicles. It basically has King Arthur in there as well, but it kind of focuses on his bagman, basically the assassination. This is the person that basically assassinates everybody for Avalon. And you follow him. They have witches, warlocks. Warlocks have extended lives, but it kind of gives you more about the Arthur legend. They bring in Greek gods. They do the whole thing, and so I was just like, when have I actually read anything about that? And I was like, oh, and this is like a 7-book series. So the first book is Crimes Against Magic, and so but it's kind of fast-paced too. It's got that whole situation going on as well. And Avalon Chronicles, it just happens to follow a female character as well. And you're just kind of dropped into this world that's already ready-made, and you just got to figure out what's going on. And that's kind of what happened with the King Arthur one. We were like, we have an idea, but I wasn't expecting when we were watching. It was entertaining. So I will always recommend that just for a fun little ride, and then go and watch that. But yeah.
All right, so this is kind of cheating because American Gods is a book, but
Oh, I've cheated in the end too. So.
what's that?
I've cheated in one of my.
Oh, good. Okay. But American Gods got turned into a television show, and it was marvelous, especially the first couple of seasons. I can only speak with authority on those because I've watched those. I have not watched the last one because I got mad at it. But if you like that really interesting interpretation and exploration of deities and folklore figures and culture heroes and like avatars of culture that you get to see in American Gods, The Wicked and Divine by Karen Gillan is so much fun. The central conceit of Wicked and Divine is that every 100 years, every 100 years, these mythic figures, these gods, are born into people. And it's not that these people are them from the entirety. There's a moment, an event, where they basically become, they embody these deities. And in the telling that we get to see in the books, the way that they express their influence, the way that they impact culture, is as celebrities and pop stars. So there's literally an entire story arc that is set in and around convention appearances. So a little familiar. And just like in American Gods, you have that point of view character who is getting to learn and experience and, be the everyman character, getting to experience the supernatural and the mythic. We have, and who then finds out that they are connected to it in ways that they might not have originally understood. You get the same thing going on in Wicked and Divine. And it's marvelous and weird, and the visuals are phenomenal because it's another comic. But I really liked it. I like and Gillen has such interesting things to say about our culture's relationship to stories and media. That's one of the themes running through pretty much everything that he's written, and it's good stuff. It's really good stuff.
Okay, let's get serious. So, I think that Mal's is legitimately one of the most important books ever written. It is, at one time this was true, and I'm pretty sure it's still true, the only graphic novel to ever win the Pulitzer Prize, and it fully deserves it. Schindler's List, I'm sure most of us have seen, another very important movie, but Mal's is about this cartoonist, Art Spiegelman, who years after his father was in Auschwitz, and he's never fully related the story to his son. He has decided to do so, and Art Spiegelman is chronicling the rise of the Nazi Party and how things deteriorated and how people ended up getting rounded up and put in places that, oh, they're just going to be there for a little bit. We're not going to, and like the development over time so that you can understand the writing on the wall. Part of what is so incredible about it is it opens with a quote from Hitler. "The Jews are most assuredly a species. They are just not human." He takes that and he decides through the lens of cartooning to say, okay, let's make the Jews are mice, the Nazis are cats, the French I think are frogs, the Polish are pigs, etc., etc., etc.
Americans are dogs.
Yes, and Americans are dogs. I forgot about that. But it is a way to visualize something so horrible and something that we do need to engage with, but it brings it to a level that makes it not the actions palatable, but so that Art Spiegelman himself can talk about it. Because he tried it several times, doing it super realistic, and it just wasn't working, so he went back to his cartoonist roots. He married them together, and he delivered one of the most powerful documentations about what happened, how it happened, that I've ever encountered. It's an excellent educational tool.
Accessibility through abstraction.
Very good at her job.
Go read Scott McCloud.
That too.
So mine is goofy. So I love Adventure Time. I know I'm a grown ass person. And I used to be like, you're a grown ass woman, why you watch Adventure Time? And I'm like, you're a grown ass man, you should know why I need to watch Adventure Time. Yes, it's so much fun, and it's silly and quirky, and it's these two buddies that are just like having these weird magical adventures through a magical land. So now Red Panda and Blue Bear, it's these two siblings who are so they have magical abilities, and they're just having magical fun all over town, and it's just super cute and super fun. And when you just want to kind of like just smile and just have a good time, there's not much else to say about it, but except it's really fun and super cute, and very much like Adventure Time in a book.
Hello, There is a new show that just premiered. It's called Invincible Fight Girl. It is about a girl that comes from a world where she lives on Accountant Isle. Her parents, who are accountants, everybody's an accountant on this island. She is expected to become an accountant, but she has a dream to be a wrestler. And we're not talking about WWF type of wrestler. We're talking about we've got superpowers going on. When they have a fight in the first episode, the guy says, "Let's fight," and it echoes, and the company that runs the wrestling association hears it.
From space.
I don't know where they hear it, from space. And they shoot a robot down, and then from there they also create a ring for them to fight. So that's the kind of show this is. And so when I saw this the first time, the first thing I said, and Robin is my example. Robin, I know you enjoy Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. I bet you would love Invisible Fight Girl. She goes and watch it. She literally calls me or texts me and she's like, "Yeah, I loved it." I was like, "I knew it." So Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur is about Lunella. She is the smartest person in the Marvel universe. It's canon. I don't want to hear anybody else say about it. She is the smartest girl, the smartest person in the Marvel universe. It kind of hits home because she is first generation Haitian American. I'm first generation Haitian American. She is dealing with an intellect at a very small age, a very large intellect at a very small age. And I'm sure some of you have been in that position, like, what do you do being so smart at a very young age? There's only but so much. And wrap that into a little girl, wrap that into a minority, it becomes difficult for her. So she happens to get exposed and become inhuman, and now she's got a dinosaur in her brain, and so they go on adventures, and it's a fun ride. It's enjoyable, but I think it's just something that if you are there to just watch and have a good time and just see them and watch little children just be kids, that is what this is for. But also Invincible Fight Girl. If you like also Dragon Ball, you will love Invincible Fight Girl. And the other one, Agents of Slam.
So Early was not exaggerating. I did call her and be like, "Oh my God, I love this." And so it reminded me of a book that I also love called Agents of Slam. I read the book before I had seen the show, but then as I was watching the show, I was like, "Oh my God, this is taking me back to this story." So the main character is a huge wrestling fan, and she's a vlogger who follows some of her favorite wrestlers. And the World Domination Society is another wrestling organization, and they decided they are actually going to try to do world domination. So the president recruits the Agents of Slam, who are also wrestlers, to try to save the world. And so she's there vlogging the whole thing, and the wrestlers are like, "Slap on a uniform, you can help us save the world." And it's literally them trying to save the world from the World Domination Society. There are also rockets and spaceships in that too.
Yeah, great. Enjoy. Please go watch it.
And read these.
Oh, it's me. Okay. I also could have been Interview with the Vampire Show. Same difference. But
No, the movie versus the TV show?
I've heard they're very different.
There's a lot going on in that TV show compared to that movie.
pass.
All your black friends are looking at your heads.
I haven't seen the show.
That explains.
Oh damn! I lost my pen.
Sorry.
So, the movie. I don't know when the show takes place, but the movie, a lot of it is like Victorian. Well, I guess it's a lot of it is in America, but the if you like vampires in that time period, right? So like the late 1800s, early 1900s. Interview with the Vampire is fine. I more like it because of the costume design. It's a really good like period drama. I enjoy that. But These Savage Shores delivers everything I actually wanted from a vampire story set in that time period. And apparently the key was just to not set it in England. We start in England because there is an ancient order of vampires, and they are very high class, and they like put, one of the characters puts on a handkerchief to like eat somebody. Fantastic. But they start getting all of these rumors and hearing that in India, which they control at this time, or England controls at this time, is some stuff is going on. There appear to be some vampires there, some unregulated vampires. So they try to go and figure out what is happening there, and they just get rocked. It's incredible. There's a different vampire, and he's like, you think you guys are old? I was here at like the dawn of time. And he just slowly starts picking them apart. And also there's a beautiful love story as well with, it's the classic, like, do you also want to be a vampire? Could be kind of cool. Self-contained, just 6 issues. You can pick it up in a collected volume. Ron V, the writer, has gone on to work for Marvel, DC, Image. He really doesn't miss, but this is the book that put him on my radar, and I think it might be my favorite vampire thing. But I haven't seen their review with the vampire show. So
that sounds like a friend's night out needs to happen when we watch that show.
Yes, go watch it. I mean, Lestat is a scumbag. And I get why people like him.
That was always true.
Yes, he's even worse, but I'm just saying it's good.
So, admittedly, Creator is, in my opinion, not a great movie. So I love Descender, and it is what I thought Creator was going to be in a movie. So, and that's not to knock it if you like it. Different people like different things. That's totally fine. So if you like either the Creator of the movie or the premise of the Creator, where you have kind of this AI, very innocent, who has the key to basically life within themselves, or the key to the future of the safety of the world within themselves, and then they end up with a caretaker who has to protect them from other forces that are trying to gain control of them. It's kind of the premise of the Creator. So Descender is fracking amazing. Dustin Nguyen's art, the whole thing is rendered in watercolor, and it's beautiful. So at one point in time, with both of these stories, there was a massive explosion caused by AI, and so now they are illegal and hunted. That's a common theme in both of these stories. So in Descender, AI become illegal. There's this childlike companion AI, that's our main point of view character. So when this happens, he shuts down. 10 years later, of course, his existence is now illegal. He wakes up and connects to the network and sets off alarms all over the galaxy. For him, he just wants to get back to the human boy that he knew as his brother at the time. At the time, that was a 10-year-old boy. Now, this boy has become a 20-year-old man who has now lived through basically the decimation of their society, and lived through basically a decade of AI being at the very center of what society knows as the cause of pretty much all of their problems. So it's a very interesting story, very well written. The art is absolutely beautiful. So if some of the themes of Creator were attractive to you, I think you'd really enjoy Descender.
Oh, I wish. I don't think I have another one.
This is Constantine 2005. Keanu Reeves Constantine. I know there's a TV show, but we don't talk about that. I mean, It follows it, but I'm talking about this Constantine. I know other people have problems with that Constantine and follow anything. I don't care. It's Keanu Reeves, and I'm always going to enjoy anything that Keanu Reeves does.
Yeah. Waiting for that second one.
Huh?
Waiting for that second one.
Listen, I mean, it's like, give me Keanu Reeves. I will consume everything that man does. He deserves it. Huh?
He already did another Bill and Ted, so I don't doubt.
I mean, listen, he's done John Wick 11 times, and I'm willing to watch all of them.
Ballerina's coming out.
I don't care.
He's gonna be here in it. The
In what?
ballerina.
And the ballerina? No, I guess. I like Keanu Reeves in action movies, but the reason why I chose the Charlie Parker series, so like we already know, he's kind of like a supernatural type detective situation going on in there. He helps people that are dealing with supernatural enemies, mostly with angels and demons and whatnot. And that's kind of what happens with the Charlie Parker series. It is a New York detective. He deals with a lot of suffering. His whole family gets eliminated. And you find out, this is not a spoiler, but it's literally in the back of the book, he gets eliminated by a serial killer. And there's like 7 books. The reason why I chose The Bad Angel as that, it's the 4th book. You learn in there that there's some things that are happening in this universe that are putting him in places that he needs to be. He's basically become, I wouldn't say a white knight because there's no way there's a white knight. But he kind of, when you're looking at something that's just so evil, and we're talking about people that are making books out of people. And when you need someone to take that down, that is what Charlie Parker is there for. But he also, you start to realize there's some Christianity involved with it, some religion involved with it, because people are thinking that there are demons existent, and they think specifically him is a fallen angel. And so he starts to have to reconcile with if he actually believes that, or is he just going to be a cop or a detective doing what he needs to do, or is he going to believe what he thinks is going on, if their ghosts exist, if the ghost of his dead daughter is going on. So there's a lot going on with this, and that's why when I looked at Constantine, I was just like, where have I read something that kind of encompasses a lot of what Constantine is about? And the Charlie Parker series does that. It's a lot. The first couple books are him dealing with trying to reconcile with the unimaginable deaths of his family and what that does to his psyche, and he has to figure out, is like, am I going crazy, or is this more than what it is? And so in those series of books, he starts to meet people that give him an idea that there could be more, and you've been put here to deal with that. And so you're kind of the person until you basically fall and die. He has gone through a lot, physically, mentally, and you're basically here to deal with the devils. And so that's kind of why I chose that.
Yes. Game of Thrones. Did we all watch Game of Thrones?
No.
Yeah. No? All right. So, if Lord of the Rings were a lot darker and had a lot more, shall we say,
Murder.
realistic. Oh, murder's a good one. Murder's a good one. Yeah. I would suggest The Last God. So it is a little more like Lord of the Rings in that there is a fellowship that goes on a journey to kill this ancient demon and save the world. They do so. I'm not spoiling anything. This all happens before the story begins. Except he's back. So maybe that story didn't go exactly as we thought. So imagine if the Fellowship beat Sauron, but we just had to take their word for it. Because they're like, well, yeah, you're not going to go to Mordor and confirm this or not. So like, yeah, we totally did. Don't worry about it. Then a bunch of years pass, and slowly this thing starts resurfacing, and people start questioning their now king. And they're like, did you tell us the truth back then? Or it's like, yeah, totally, everything's fine. And it just all starts to unravel. So it's basically a deconstruction of the high fantasy genre of myth making, of how we take reality and turn it into these stories that tend to favor us, and how that can have very serious consequences for the people that aren't us. It's very, very good. I don't know if we're going to get more of it because DC put it out. Weird, right? Doesn't take place in the DC universe, but they published it. But gosh, that first story is amazing. Highly suggested.
So my penultimate slide here. If you liked Carnival Row, so it's not exactly steampunk because they don't have like a lot of other technology and stuff, but it is kind of like this gruff detective, and the Fae live alongside humans as an underprivileged class, as like second class citizens, and you have a serial killer is targeting Fae, and so you have this gruff detective who is investigating the murders when no one else in their society will. So if you kind of like that detective, it mixed in with like the supernatural and mystical beings, I think you would really enjoy the Dead Djinn universe. I kept calling it Djinnverse forever. It's Dead Djinn universe, starting with A Dead Djinn in Cairo by P. Jelly Clark. So the first two are actually novellas, and then the third is the full novel in the series. Dead Djinn in Cairo is, in my opinion, definitely a prequel, a necessary prequel to Master of Djinn. Haunting of Tram Car 15 is a really fun story, and I would recommend reading it. It's set between those two, but it's not necessary to read Master of Djinn. But basically, in this story, at the turn of the 19th century, the turn of the 20th century, so around like the 1920s or so, an Egyptian scientist ends up creating a tear that allows Jinn to be able to cross over into our world. So they do, and they set up camp in Egypt, and they make gadgets, and they're like, hey, we're gonna make all this cool shit and stuff. I'm sorry, I have such a potty mouth.
You do.
They're gonna make all this cool stuff. But then a Jinn ends up dead, and so that is very unusual. So because they have integrated themselves into society, there is actually a department of, I actually wrote this down because it's a mouthful. The Ministry of Alchemy, Enchantments, and Supernatural Entities. So the main character is Fatma, and she is one of the few women in the ministry, and she's our point of view character, and so she is investigating how this very powerful being ended up dead and ends up uncovering a conspiracy plot. So it is really good. I enjoyed it very much.
Is the last one?
We got two more of mine and then yours.
I'm sure everybody's heard at least one or two, or if not both. Doctor Who, it is basically about an alien just traveling through space and time. And the doctor that's on there, that's my doctor. Just if you wanted to know. I like this crusty Scottish man. So that's the one I chose. He's basically dealing with the annihilation of his culture, his people, kind of what Arthur Dent is dealing with in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He is dealing with the annihilation and destruction of the Earth. One is going through it in a horrible way, running away from everything because of pain and rage and anger, because he is the reason for it. But also in Arthur, he is not the reason for it, but he is dealing with it in his own way. They try to make it a little bit more funnier. They both actually deal with a question inherent to the series. For Doctor Who would be his name, and for Hitchhiker's Guide would be the ultimate answer to everything, universe, and all of that. So I think that if you enjoy just a person just traveling through space and just dealing with different creatures and dealing with all types of situations, I think it's a really great connection between the both. And also, always believe in dolphins, because the dolphins run.
So we're running short on time, so I'm gonna do this one really quick. Black Mirror is one of my favorite shows. It deals with the darker side of technology. It's an anthology series. So if you are interested in stories that kind of look at how we use technology in ways that are a little bit more creepy, I think you would really enjoy both The Test and Unauthorized Bread by Cory Doctorow. So they both kind of follow in those themes. So Cory Doctorow actually does, a lot of his writing is around technology and technology advocacies to help share stories that talk about like access, and that's kind of what this particular story, Unauthorized Bread, is about. It's actually a single story and of 4 novellas in one complete novel, but I think that you would really enjoy both of these. The Test is about an immigrant who is going to take his naturalization test, and when some things go awry. So, unfortunately, we are running low on time. I was going to ask the audience if you guys had any suggestions for us, but we don't have time, I'm guessing. Moderator person?
You got 4 minutes?
Anyone have any quick suggestions that they want to give?
Well, if there are people that haven't actually read A Wrinkle in Time, that's actually worth reading. So.
Yes, for sure.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Yeah. And you had one?
For like the Harry Potter with like magical schools and everything, well, it's loosely based on it. Gideon the Knight.
Oh, okay. Gideon the Ninth. Yeah, yeah.
Sword, lesbian, necromancers in space.
If you like soft sci-fi kind of fantasy that features gay characters and talks about imperialism and toxic relationships, Winter's Orbit by I don't know her name, Everina Maxwell, I think.
Winter's Orbit. Yeah, that was definitely on my TBR. Yeah.
It's really good.
And Gideon the Ninth is as well.
I would say that for watching, it literally is the same thing, but you know, Grimm's Fairy Tales, if no one's ever really watched it, we know how dark those series are. We know that Cinderella's sister's eyes got plucked out. But it's a series that happened a long time ago, but there's a show called Grimm. And it was very good, at least until the last season. But it dealt with different iterations of Grimm's Fairy Tales, and they did it in a really smart way. I think the first episode was about the 3 blind mice, and they used these 3 men as 3 blind mice, and it's just, I think it's really entertaining watch, because if you know Grimm's Fairy Tales, or even know some form of Grimm's Fairy Tales, watching Grimm and then watching those fairy tales unfold, you're just like, oh, this is what happened, this is what happened. So I highly recommend watching that as well.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. We had some other things, but I didn't have time for those. Thank you so much everyone for coming. If you want to know more about our organization, we do have cards here at the front, and or you can also scan our QR code on the screen to learn more about us.
Thank you.